order the Tuesday, September 11th regular meeting of the Park Board. First, do we have student members? Okay. We'll start with a roll call.
Okay. Member Dan Peterson? Member Jacobson? Here. Member Halbert? Here. Member Segretto? Here. Member Steele?
Here.
Member Deeds?
Here.
Member Giesecke?
Here.
Member Jones?
Here.
Member Catherine Peterson?
Here.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, next item is adoption of the consent agenda. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. It looks like we have some members in the audience. Please come forward if you would like to comment on something not on the agenda tonight. We'll limit your comments to 3 minutes. There are lights up at the microphones. And just come up and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Anna Larson. My address is 5025 Lincoln Circle in Edina. And I wanted to raise a concern about a dog bite that happened to me back in June of this year at the Edina Dog Park. The owner in question was not paying attention to his dog. His dog was not under voice control, which is what is stated in the rules of the park. The owner did not have a dog park collar for the dog. The dog did not have any identification tags at all on its collar. The owner was on his cell phone halfway across the park with his back turned to his dog, and the dog bit me in the forearm. And I ended up having to get a series of rabies shots because this particular owner of the dog did not have updated shots. So it was quite the ordeal for me this summer, and it raises some issues that have been ongoing at the park in terms of it doesn't seem like the park is really policed and the rules are being followed by the citizens. A lot of people come there that don't pay for the park. They bring reading materials like a book or the newspaper, or they're on their cell phone not paying attention to their dog. There's large amounts of dog poop that's not being picked up, and clearly there's an issue with owners not paying enough attention to their dogs, hence the dog bite.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
My name is Herb Anderson, 3 Wellesley Place. I guess she said quite a bit, but people that don't belong in the dog park are coming in there, they're telling their friends because they don't patrol anymore, and it's just getting out of hand down there. We need some better rules.
Thank you.
Could we put like a little flyer? Every year they send you something to tell you about the rules and when you have to renew your collar. Can we put like a flyer in there that says if you don't pick up after your dog, you won't be allowed in there anymore or something like that?
We'll take it into consideration. So.
Okay, that's about it then.
Great, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments not on the agenda? Thank you again for your comments. Moving on to item 6, reports and recommendations. The first item is the review of the Park Board retreat. In your packet, I typed up the so-called minutes, the SOAR analysis, as well as our new initiatives brainstorm. In addition, John answered a few questions in the information and background of the report. Would anyone like to ask any questions? Have any comments?
Okay. Kia, I just have a comment and a couple questions. First, I thought it was a great event for the board to be able to get away and
and discuss openly our views and do some of the activities that you had. I thought that that was really great. We hadn't done anything like that. But it was different than what I had expected, and kind of what was described to me through Louise, describing the survey that we took. And so my expectations of the retreat were based on, I'm trying to find, I brought some of the words and the survey that we filled out. And we never discussed the surveys that we filled out. And so I would like to follow up with that and say, well, will we be given a time to do that? If not, and I'm saying this also because when I mentioned that it would be inappropriate, at the last meeting, that it would be inappropriate for us to be televised at our retreat, if we were just brainstorming on our work plan, I certainly wouldn't have said that if that was, I think that the public has every right to hear us brainstorm and discuss a work plan. So that's what I'm getting at, is I'm trying to figure out if other people on the board had a similar expectation, or maybe I missed something.
I guess just to that comment, one of the other comments that I made was, I wish we could have reviewed the survey results and figured out how we could work more efficiently together. I think there are a lot of times where a lot of us are on different pages, and it feels like if we could figure out how to corral that into an efficient meeting, that would probably help all of us.
Well, since this was originally my idea, it really was my intent to work on interpersonal communications. But, I guess with all due respects, unless you really are skilled in that field, and unless we had some professional assistance from outside, I think that would have been really very hard for chairperson to do. But I would like to do that, and we have the survey to work with. But, yeah, it wasn't my expectation either. I think it was a productive meeting, but it wasn't what my expectation was.
We certainly can do that moving forward. It's a little frustrating because I did present the agenda in advance, and I think it was pretty clear, but I could be wrong on that. We can put that on the agenda in the future and have a discussion about that, if that would make sense.
I'm not sure what we would be discussing. Would that be, and I'm just going back with, at an open meeting like this, I think that some of the discussions, the reason that it was going to be at a retreat was that it was going to be in a kind of, we would be discussing our relationships if we wanted, and what I'm hearing from Louise is that isn't really, I have no experience in what you were saying. So if it's not possible to do without a facilitator, well, then maybe we bring in a facilitator and plan that as a offline meeting again. That's what I would see as a possibility for doing this. I just don't want us to waste our time filling out a survey. I've done this enough. I take the time to fill out a survey and nobody does anything with it. So I want to make sure that we just finish the circle and say, okay, maybe we do need a facilitator, and or maybe the city has someone on staff that has worked with groups that can do this type of thing. And Anne, maybe that would be a question that you could ask the city if they could provide some kind of facilitating service.
Didn't we ask for that and they said no?
Yeah, originally when I first brainstormed, I brainstormed with Mr. Caprios kind of behind the scenes, and he said, we've never done this before, and we really don't have a budget to do it. And, maybe it's something that we deal with. It seems to me that summertime is usually the time where people get together and, they try to carve out a meeting to, kind of iron out things and make things more efficient. And, I don't see this as a real pressing agenda item, but, maybe next summer, I would say maybe we can get a budget line to have a facilitator help us. That would be my thought.
I just want to clarify, the survey was definitely taken, each answer was taken into consideration. I met with the assistant city manager and John and Ann, and we went through it, and we identified what we thought were the key issues. Interpersonal relationships is certainly a component, but there were other components we thought that were more important to impacting our work right now, which was we had to get a work plan. It has to be turned in tomorrow, and the role of the park board. If we don't understand our role, we're not going to be able to function. So I did have to make a decision to prioritize that, and I'm sorry I haven't explained that well until now. But I definitely think going forward we can continue to look at the other components to make us more effective.
Just a couple quick comments. I thought the retreat was good. The only change I would make in the future, no block voting in terms of when we put things up. You don't get to put all three of your stickers next to yours. I think we got a little biased on the voting in that particular instance, but other than that, I thought the retreat was fairly effective use of time. So, nice work.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you all. If you do have an idea of something that we should look at, please contact John or Ann, and we can consider that at another park board meeting. All right, under reports and recommendations, item B is the 2013 park board work plan, and it's been kind of confusing because we've had different versions of the work plan because I've been working with city staff to make sure I didn't miss anything. So the one that appeared on the table tonight is what we will be working off of. I'm going to go through it item by item so you can understand my rationale. Again, I worked with John and Ann on these items. And so they did have input, but I thought it would make more sense having it come from within. So I'm sticking my head out there, and if you think my ideas are crap, then let me know. So the first item on the work plan is strategic planning with a comprehensive needs assessment. And I kind of articulated the rationale and what I foresaw going forward as the meetings. The reason I chose this, it was apparent that we need more strategic planning throughout our activities, and I thought this item would most comprehensively include the different questions we had at the park board retreat. I know City Council has been interested in a master parks plan. I wanted to include different programming items such as the nature programming and the winter activities, but as I sat and thought about it, it doesn't really make sense to start other new programming without knowing what your strategic plan is. And a comprehensive needs assessment can help answer a lot of questions before investing money in specific programs or facilities. So are there any questions? I don't want to get into debate about this yet. I want to walk through it, but are there any questions about this item? All right. The second item is the Edina Senior Center study. The reason I did not include this under the strategic plan is because it's looking at existing data, and obviously this is kind of been talked about already. And the budget would be 900, and then you can see the staff support. Is there any questions on this item?
What is the 900 based upon?
I'm sorry, that would be a number that John put together, and I'm not privy to that information.
We can find that out.
You know, if I remember correctly, I think the senior center study was something that a former member, Bill Lowe, was really interested in, and I'm just wondering if maybe somebody might want to reach out to him and see if he has any desire to have any community involvement if we're going to be studying the senior center, if he's got the time for it.
Sure.
What do you think?
Under the park board duties, it does say form a working group or committee, so I think communicating that to him would be very valuable.
And I'd like to just clarify something. Because this is pulled out of as something separate, I would assume that all of our parks are part of the strategic plan. So this is not going to eliminate that from a review in a long-term strategic plan.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess I just have kind of one tangential question on the Edina Center study. Is it more about the use of the building when it's not in use as a senior center, or is it about the senior center activities? Or both?
I believe both.
Okay.
And I would add parking to this study.
Any other questions or comments on the senior center? All right, and the third initiative is cost recovery goals for enterprise facilities. We did pass a recommendation asking City Council that we study this. Again, it's different from the it's kind of, bear with me, there is overlap with the strategic plan and everything that we will be doing, obviously, because it will be comprehensive. This is a little different because, again, we're looking at existing data, and it also, one of the items mentioned at the retreat was classification. I think this also plays into this initiative. So that, I believe the recommendation that we passed the City Council has not been acted on yet. This work plan goes to City Council, so they'll have a chance to review it.
And could I understand this, and can I think that this has been a part of our work plan. I was wondering if we could add a discussion of what makes something an enterprise facility, what our principles are for including Centennial Lakes, for example, as a enterprise facility. Maybe what it should be is include review enterprise budgets, statistics, and business plans.
Criteria for classification.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the point of the classification, was to try to make head or tail of what is or is not considered an enterprise.
Are there any other questions or comments? We'll make formal motions once we get through this. Okay.
Well, with respect to cost recovery, we need to know what is the cost to keep it going, how many people use it, how many people need to use it to recover the costs. I think that's probably obvious, but I don't know if we have those numbers available.
Right now, it says review enterprise facility budget, so I don't know if that's sufficient.
Just a question of clarification. Are the liquor stores an enterprise facility under the Parks Board, or are they simply subsidized parks? What is that relationship? Who oversees them?
there's a separate staff people who oversee liquor operations. They have nothing to do with the park system, and it's the city council who takes the profits from the liquor stores and distributes them to the various activities of the city. The park system may get some year, etc.
Any other questions or comments on this item? All right. And then we have a few items that were added, and the reason they were added is because if you look under ongoing responsibilities, we have our capital improvement plan, but city manager expressed that he would like these articulated separately. So I'm actually going to pass it to Ann to describe each of these projects because staff informed me that these were necessary to include.
Thank you. These are all items that will be addressed in 2013, as Kia mentioned, in our capital improvement plan. For renovating Garden Park baseball field, this was an initiative that was brought forth by the Baseball Association, and they have some fields that they would like to see improved. And first on their list is Garden Park, and so the plan is for us to partner with the Baseball Association. They're offering to make a $100,000 donation, and we're going to apply for approximately a $225,000 Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant. So this is the grant we're going to be applying for within the next month. And if we receive funding, this will be a project that we'll be working on, and you'll be seeing action in form of a public hearing coming up in October. And we'll be, if everything passes, we'll be working on this project in 2013.
Are there any questions? All right.
Okay, the next one is a barrier-free playground replacement at Wooddale Park. This was an initiative that was brought to us by an Edina resident who lives in the neighborhood, and she is interested in putting together a fundraising campaign to replace that park with a completely barrier-free play structure. And something along the lines of a Miller Park in Eden Prairie, if any of you are familiar with that. Certainly not in the size of a Miller Park, but the type of equipment that would be accessible to kids and adults in wheelchairs. And we are anticipating a budget of approximately $300,000. We have some matching funds that we put in our capital improvement plan for 2013. That was an addition this year. But as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at this as being a completely fundraising effort by the neighborhood. And we started working on that in the very preliminary phases right now, but anticipate that being more of an initiative in 2013 as well.
All right, any questions?
Okay, the next is Lake Edina Pathway. This is an initiative that came about in conjunction with Dewtown and some city council member interests in an attempt to try to bridge the neighborhood off of Park Lawn and Cornelia schools so that they have access to the school and access to the playground. So we're trying to create a safe route for kids in that neighborhood to be able to get to the school. So this was an initiative that was brought to us, and we also added it to our 2013 capital improvement plan. And that's something that you'll be seeing also in the form of a public hearing with that neighborhood.
Any questions? Okay.
Can I just ask a little bit about these as part of our work plan? What would be, when we put this on our work plan, for example, the playground equipment at Wooddale Park or this Lake Edina Pathway, what does that mean? Does that mean for this park board?
Well, there are different duties, and we've highlighted them under the initiative, under Park Board duties. There are different things that we're going to be asking for each project. In terms of the Wooddale Park playground replacement, we would like to ask for a member or members of the Park Board to serve on that committee. It's going to be a new type of a playground for our city, and so we're hoping to get involvement in that way, and we're also hoping to get a review and comment on the play equipment as it's nearing completion. So that would be the extent on that one. And the other one I believe that you mentioned was the pathway. That's going to be something that's going to require a public hearing and also a review and comment to make a recommendation to the City Council.
Any other questions? All right.
And the last is something very similar to the previous items that I mentioned. That's the Countryside Park Master Plan. That's something that we've been working on for over a year in our department, but we're getting close to completing a master plan. We're going to be asking Park Board to review and comment on the Park Master Plan. We're going to be asking Park Board to review and comment on a play structure that we've been working on the design for several months. And I believe we have someone that has already volunteered, Mr. Hulbert, has volunteered to serve on the committee to replace the park shelter building. So that's what we'll be asking for you regarding Countryside Park.
Great. Any questions?
And there's $1 million budget on that item. And can you tell me where that came from?
Yeah, we had $330,000 in our CIP for this year to replace the playground equipment and pathways. And then, as some of you may remember, we received approximately $695,000 in a park dedication fee from the Waters Development. So that gave us the ability to move forward with the entire master plan, which brings us to just over $1 million.
All right, if there are no more questions on that item, let's just turn it over. We have a list of our ongoing responsibilities, basically annual duties. And then there's a list of work plan ideas to be considered in the future. A cooperative agreement with the school district, the sports dome, and then the master parks plan, which again had interest from City Council.
I do have a question, and it sort of follows Ellen's question. For the 2013 work plan, does that mean that if other things come to the surface during the course of the year, that we would not be able to add them to our agenda as they become timely?
We can take up new items. The idea of the work plan is to, first of all, have a plan of, let people know what we're going to be working on going forward, and also, quite frankly, to manage our time and make sure that we have the staff support necessary to do each of these items. So does that...
That answers the question, but I think the combination of the strategic plan and the identification of certain projects, certain items identified in this work plan, I could see when new things come to the table, I would hope everyone would continue to be open-minded about our ability to deal with them, because it would be so easy to say, well, we're gonna address that in the strategic plan, and no doubt the strategic plan is going to take a while to develop, and I really don't want to have Park Board feel handcuffed that they can't move forward with projects that really need attention and action.
Just one comment. being part of the Sports Dome work group, I would like to see it come to a conclusion. So I'd like to see it somewhere on the work plan with a deadline and a date and get it done and off my agenda. No offense, but I think we need to find a location and make a decision. And I think that we should pick a date and get it on the plan and have the and present it to the Parks Board and move it on to the council. So rather than have it on the other work plan ideas, et cetera, I'd like it on the work plan someplace with an actual date.
Is there any rationale for including it? I believe it was included in one of our drafts.
It very well might have been. The reason that I didn't recommend at this point putting it in that part of the work plan was because it's titled New Initiatives, and this really isn't a new initiative. It's more of a current year initiative. But I totally agree, and maybe it's a matter of keeping it where it is with a final date. But we could certainly move it to the New Initiative section as well, and that would be just fine.
Well, I guess this is going to translate into a calendar.
Yes.
Okay. So somewhere on the calendar is going to be like December, January, somewhere in that general time frame is going to be a recommendation and a review and comment on the Sports Dome. That would be my hope.
The Park Board will have a chance to review the calendar. I think the idea of this is to make sure that City Council is in agreement with our initiatives.
Right. So maybe what I would do is ask. I'm in full agreement that this is not a new initiative, but we have several initiatives that are ongoing right now. We hope to have them completed, and the Sports Dome is one of them. I'm looking at ongoing responsibilities. I want some clarification. The donations and naming policy, I don't consider that ongoing. I thought that we were done. So likewise, will there be expectations of our involvement in the future of donations policy, naming of parks policy, user fee policy? Those are not, I would not recommend them to be on our work plan.
I think that's a good point. I would suggest that we keep them under ongoing responsibilities, move the sports dome into ongoing responsibilities, but after each of those items, write completed by. Would that suffice? So, for example, saying donations policy completed by.
No, actually, because they're different than ongoing response. Like we normally address a capital improvement plan or fees and charges. We normally address an operating budget. We always update our bylaws. That's part of the process. We always elect officers. But then these are
ongoing projects.
These are projects that are not part of that.
Could we put an item on there under ongoing responsibilities that says policy review as needed?
I don't think that speaks to the Sports Dome, but I think it maybe just creating a new category that says
initiatives.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, just the ongoing initiatives.
Ongoing initiatives.
And list those.
And then have I think that these are really good. These target completion dates. I like this form. This for the new initiatives, and I would just put these other initiatives that Sports Dome should be, and just cut the word new out of there.
Okay, so is there general consensus that the donations policy, the naming policy, the user fees policy, and the Sports Dome are initiatives that should be completed in 2013?
I thought some of those were completed. Are we still?
The City Council is we should do a recap later about our meeting with City Council about those recommendations. But the City Council will continue to work on the donations and naming with the Park Board. And the user fee policy, the recommendations did pass the City Council. But if we start receiving new data, the idea of policy, we still need to work on that. That makes sense.
Right, but we don't have anything, I mean, they approved the recommendations for the user fee. So unless we want to suggest that we're going to be working on user fee policy, which, I mean, we should discuss that, whether or not that's something that we want to work on. But that's why this should be part of the discussion.
Well, one of the things for the user fee policy I believe we'll have a chance to look at is the relationship document. So
you're recommending that we talk about that stay in there?
Yes.
Okay. And I would also suggest that Edina Veterans Memorial,
Yes.
that we discuss as an initiative what it is that right now we do not have a representative. Maybe we should open that up again to having a park board be a representative on that group and find out when, if there is going to be a target completion date for that, or is that going to be ongoing forever? I mean, I think we need to discuss this a little bit.
I think having it on the work plan is sufficient for being able to talk about that. But I'd say when we get to discussing the calendar that we get down to those specifics.
Okay, and then my last comment would be on the master parks plan for other work plans, and I consider that to be something similar to the strategic planning and comprehensive needs assessment. And so that's where I would throw that.
Underneath the first initiative?
Yep.
I could be wrong, but I think it's a little different. And could you explain what a master parks plan looks like?
I would think the difference with the park master plan would be an actual study of each park facility itself and its uses, possible modifications to the park itself. Where the strategic plan is looking at our operations, looking at our programming, looking at how that relates to the economy today, how that relates to our vision and mission. So that's the way I see it, see the two being different, the master plan being very park facility specific, and the other more operational mission and vision related.
Does the master parks plan include a playground replacement plan or look at that at all?
You know, it certainly would be something that would be included in the parks master plan. We do currently have a replacement plan based on age of installation and that sort of thing, but yes, that definitely would be included in the parks master plan.
Countryside already has a master plan, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Countryside already has a master plan. We've seen it before. This is moving forward on a master plan that exists, correct?
That's correct. We had the ability to move forward with that master plan because of the park dedication fee from the Waters Development.
Okay, so I have a different definition of a master parks plan, which is different. There's a master plan, for example, for Countryside Park, and there's a master plan in existence for Garden Park. But other communities create master parks plan, and I'm really sorry. I sent you all copies of what I was going to share. I shared with you at the retreat that I would send you copies of examples of other cities that have created these master plans. And I sent it, and it got caught. They're so big, it got hung up on the sending today. So I'm really sorry. I'm going to pass two of these out. They're really long, and they're two examples of master park plan. And I will send you the links so that you can look at them yourselves. One is from a city in Illinois that is 150,000 people with similar demographics. They have a similar vision. They want to be the city of excellent park services. They're a little wealthier, and they're a little bit bigger. They're a fully accredited park district, so they're an award-winning park district. And their vision seems to be similar to ours, so that's why I chose that. In it, they talk a little bit about needs assessment, and they talk about a strategic plan. And that's all a part of the master plan. And what it does is it takes a 10-year vision of where they want to be and looks at all of their facilities. The other city that I chose was Roseville because it was local. It's one of the few cities in Minnesota that has won a National Parks Award in the last 20 years. And they just did theirs in 2010. And they likewise, their vision is that they want to be a world-renowned parks system. So it's very interesting to see what they have done and what's included in theirs. And yes, they do have the aspects of what goes on in each individual park, but it's a broader strategic plan. So, like I said, I am really sorry that I didn't get them to you if you are at all interested, but they are. I think that those master plans, since they incorporate the strategic plan and the needs assessment, and they talk about the process those cities used in order to create the needs assessment and in order to create the strategic plan, that might be a good tool for us as we work on that first work plan. And I would ask the staff to say if there's other cities that have similar things. Sometimes I feel like I'm developing knowledge of how to create the mechanics of something so that we can advise on policy when, in fact, there are many different cities that have tried to do the same thing that we've done, and we might figure out how that fits. But I would suggest that the master plan, since we've already mentioned it in the first, that is kind of what we're looking for, and as we move forward, that might be something for us to consider.
So you're suggesting saying strategic master parks plan instead of strategic plan, or?
Yes.
Okay.
A master parks plan, which would include strategic planning and a comprehensive needs assessment.
I could be wrong, but I don't think the parks plan usually includes like enterprise facilities because it's looked at differently. What is the difference?
You know, I think we're kind of arguing over semantics here. I definitely have seen different plans called different things, and I think it's just really important that you all are specific about what it is that you want. Are you looking for a master plan like you've seen for Countryside Park, for example? I know that's one that we've talked about recently. So we're looking at the facility itself and possible changes that we can make for a more efficient facility. Or are we looking at a more general, this is what we want to see at the park and this is how it relates to the city recreation program, recreation and sports program as a whole? It could certainly include enterprises, or it wouldn't have to include enterprises. It's really a scope that would be determined by you. As you will see, all these different master plans are done differently. They're called different things. So. It just really depends upon the scope that you want to see, and, if you want to do it in 1 year, if you want to do it in multiple phases, I think you just need to determine what are the key points that you'd be looking for immediately in 2013.
I am really wary of spending lots and lots of money on independently study, outside consultant master plans. I'm really wary, and while I support a strategic plan for us to understand and sort through what our strategy is for a 5-year period, I'm really not a proponent, because as I look at this plan that you just circulated, it's so full of just statistics. I mean, we will have yet another thing on the shelf. And I have full confidence in Edina Park staff to work with a strategic plan that Park Board comes up with, so that we could use the money that we would spend on our planning process to put into our parks.
Louise, I've seen some of those consultant reports, and so you don't have to tell me about that, the complete stuff. But here's where what I'm thinking is, and I'm not. I think we do need to clarify 5 years. Are we looking 5 years? Are we looking 10 years? And what the objectives are? So I agree. If you want to begin with a comprehensive needs assessment and strategic plan and see where we go from there, that would be fine.
Right. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, because by no means do I think we're going to sit down tonight and say, okay, we're going to have a 5-year strategic plan. It's going to cover these facilities, and it's going to have this level of detail. So, again, just looking at how I've laid out the different meetings, and that will take up 3 or 4 meetings. It's going to take some discussion. Are there any other comments or questions about items on this? And then we will go through each item and make a motion.
Yes,
Well,
please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I think the great John O'Leary has joined us. And if you would like to take your seat, the best advice I can give you is, if you want to say something, there's a little green light that goes on when you push your button. And if you cough, make sure the light is off. Welcome. Why don't we introduce ourselves, and then, John, you could tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm Dan Peterson. Welcome.
Welcome. Can we do introductions in just a second?
Yeah.
And then, but thank you very much, and thank you for breaking into to get him on.
Okay, but can we talk about adding anything to the work plan?
Of course.
Would now be a good time?
Yes.
Okay, and since I have been so incredibly intimately involved with the Grandview process, I've been following it, and as Kevin Staunton said, he apologized for giving so much work to the park board. I think that's what he said at the last meeting he was here. And I kind of was trying to figure out what that meant, and so I've been watching. When the framework was adopted by City Council on April 17th, the City Council minutes show that council consensus was reached on the following: Park Board to address community needs, use of public spaces, and civic building programming, which would drive building design.
I have included that under the strategic plan under rationale. I have Park Board has shown interest in needs assessment, including but not limited to nature programming, winter's activities, and then this is the Grandview community center programs and amenities. So making sure that when we do a needs assessment, we're including all the items that are coming up.
Okay, and I see the target completion date is ongoing. So this is a small area plan where the council would like to have some guidance so that they can develop that area. I would recommend then that we get a target completion date.
For the needs assessment?
For the, if it appears that Park Board is to address the community needs, the use of public spaces, and civic building programming, which would drive the building design. So I think that we would need either to have that as a separate item on the work plan, or just a target completion date for the needs assessment.
So you want Grandview cut out as a separate one because you think it's more eminent time-wise? It's
Yeah, well, and maybe it's not. Maybe the council will say, it's not. I mean, I just want some clarity. So,
I'm hesitant to, well, it depends if we decide to do an internal needs assessment or not, but.
Can I make a suggestion that we ask council for some guidance on what their time frame looks like for Grandview and what their time frame is for us in terms of that? Let's just ask the council. Let's, you know, if they want it done in 6 months, then yeah, it's going to take them a heck of a lot of time. If we were talking about something over the next 3 years, then it can be
right. I would make that as a motion so that I don't know how to communicate with the city council without making motions to make sure that they see them. So
we have a meeting. Is that what the September 19th is?
Yes, that's correct. It's a work session. So if you want to add Grandview, I would suggest adding it as a new initiative. And if you want to give us some verbiage for that, we can add it as a new initiative. And as was mentioned, they can decide whether they want to keep it or whether they would choose to eliminate it.
The commission board and chairs will meet with city council on the 19th about the work plans. So that's an opportunity. My only reservation about adding it as a separate item is because I don't want to spend money on a needs assessment and then do another needs assessment.
No, I think that was quite clear that the city, they are looking at consolidating and potential what it is that we might need in that space and how it all might fit together in a comprehensive needs assessment. So I do think that there should I would never recommend that there'd be more than one needs assessment.
Would it be sufficient to, under rationale, write address and then the language that city council's action?
Right. I think that would be great.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions?
Yes, I think the city council put on the agenda for us 3 or 4 weeks ago community gardens. You'll remember we all got copied emails on that. And I tried to get the park board interested in that issue 3 years ago and 2 years ago. There was no interest. We're the only city in the western suburbs, I think John figured out, that does not have community garden or gardens. A easy way to get going on it is look where the need would be greatest. Around Centennial Lakes with all of the apartments and condos. And the YMCA had some land which John thought could be used just across York. Community gardens need water, and they either need tilled earth with a fence for bunnies and rabbits and deer to keep out, or they need water and raised beds, and probably still need fences to keep deer out. But I think the staff could figure out what's going on at the Y. They had some plans for renewing the Y, changing the Y, and let us know sometime in the next couple of months.
And what has city council done as far as community gardens recently?
You know, there have been some discussions, particularly related to Dewtown, about community gardens, but we haven't received any specific directives.
Okay. Okay. Are there other questions and comments before we start taking motions?
I just want to comment on Dan. I agree that that's something that seems to keep coming up. And so I don't know, while I know that that's going to be part of a needs assessment, most likely.
That's true.
And yet, do we want to wait for a needs assessment, or are we going to really say the needs assessment is going to take place this year and we'll move forward with it next year? But it is worth discussing whether or not that we want to try to move faster than that on this. So, I mean, sometimes people bring up good questions, and this is where I kind of wanted to talk about this, because when someone brings up a good point, and then we don't know, okay, do we include this in our work plan? Do we not include it in our work plan? Is it something that we can bring up later? I'm a little bit surprised at what's ended up in our work plan. Seems to be many initiatives that were not even part of our capital improvement plan last year. I mean, not even part of the 5-year capital improvement plan, not on the radar, and I feel very reactionary.
I think there's always the ability to add things, as the year progresses. This is only like the second year we've even had a work plan. So, I mean, if there should be some desire to start studying potential locations for a community garden, I think it's something that we could always have the flexibility if the time would permit.
So I would suggest adding that under other work plan ideas unless members feel more strongly. But Ellen, I agree with you about the CIP items. I had the same conversation with staff, but these are already supported by City Council, so
Yeah, and I think that what they've added, I'm very excited about the things that they've added. I can't get, but I get a little frustrated because it seems as if we are constantly reacting to the next thing. So
I feel the same way.
So in the spirit of throwing out another idea, because we had this great brainstorming session, and now I'm looking at a sheet that doesn't really contain much of what we did last month, except for the strategic plan. So I'm just so that I don't feel like we wasted a complete time with that brainstorming session, I'm going to throw out one more idea. Of course, it was mine. The one that talks about the green energy, to try to add that to the work plan. And I'll tell you why. From what I'm seeing, I don't see any potential for reducing our expenses to any great extent. And I know that other cities are becoming very active in working with third parties and/or creating solar community gardens, which work for people like in a community like ours that would like to install solar panels but have too many trees. It's similar to a community garden, but it's for solar panels. And the Park District can piggyback on that for whatever panels they want. But there are many things, like Minneapolis is now saving they've just expanded their Royalston maintenance facility. In 2006, they put some money into it. They put in some more in 2012 because it was so successful for the solar panels, and now they're saving $14,000 a year in electricity. Considering what our arena burns in electricity, I would like to see us at least evaluate some of these other methods of green energy.
Although I agree with what you're saying, Ellen, don't we have an energy and environmental commission that it would be more appropriate for them to work on items like that?
I know the people working on energy and environment, and they have many initiatives, and I think that it would be a great thing for us to say we'd work together on. If we did, then the savings could go toward the parks.
Well, but programmatically, should they not be the spear leader on the effort? I mean, it is the energy. Am I right? It's the Energy and Environmental Commission.
It's energy and environment,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking at the parkland though, actually, to put it on. So, there is parkland that we just looked at that we realized we could not possibly put a sports dome on, but it's south-facing with no trees, and you could put a solar field on it. So I'm just saying that if it's parkland, then it is something that I think we should be involved in, and maybe we could suggest a joint work group. This is when I think about reducing cost for our enterprise entities. When I look at the golf dome to think about how much energy is burned heating that, or the ice arena, none of our work plan programs have really tried to target a reduction in cost. So it's an idea.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, ideas? All right, let's walk through these one by one again, making some motions. So for the first initiative, strategic planning with a comprehensive needs assessment, and then adding into, Ellen suggested adding under rationale, address city council's actions on the Grandview area plan. Is there a motion?
I move.
So second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Are you still a member of that group?
I think that's kind of classic. That's what we're talking about. Some groups just don't seem to die. I think that group the steering committee is done with the approval by city council.
So it's no longer a moving target, it's a final report that was given to the city council?
Yes.
And what did they do with it?
They approved it.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the Edina Senior Center study. Alan made the suggestion to add parking under proposed changes on the park board duties. Does anyone have a motion?
A question.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me you got to ask the question, is it broke, and how can we fix it? If it's not broke, should it be on the agenda? And I do not understand why it's on the agenda. It seems to me it's not broke.
We had this discussion last year. Yeah, and that the utilization is extremely low. The fact is that we've got very low utilization rates on it. The costs that we're running relative to utilization are quite high. And so I think there is good indication that, we need to figure out how to make better use of that space. And so I think that's the rationale for it. So I think there is, we went through that discussion, and I think there is good evidence that, it at least needs to be looked at. Will changes be made? We'll see, but it at least needs to be looked at.
I wish it would state that in the park board duties, because it sounds more like it's trying to look at the center as a whole and not utilizing the capacity or the potential income for the building.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion. to add the statement of percent utilization of the building and whether it's possible to increase the utilization.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Oppose? All right, I think we still have to pass the initiative, though, itself with that.
Okay, so I move we pass the initiative.
You wanted better Robert's Rules of Order.
There you go. I second that.
Can I stop just for a second? I'm just trying to figure out how many working groups we are assigning ourselves. So if right now, I just want to get a running tally of both what's ongoing and what we've just approved. Just so I think that we need to be clear because sometimes I think that this is the good thing about creating a work plan is that now we'll be intentional about what we ask each other to do. From what I know of, we have the Sports Dome.
Yes, we do.
Working group that's going to continue meeting this year, right? Are there any others that are ongoing right now besides the Sports Dome?
Yours?
The naming and donations.
That's ongoing, or are we done?
Well, I'm pretty much done. So that would be,
So we can declare that one done?
I'm pretty sure I have one more meeting that I will present. There's a workshop that we'll be talking about it at. But I think it's inappropriate for us to consider that being an ongoing thing. Anyhow, but if anybody else wants to jump in and suggest that we want to do that ongoing, then we should put it on the work plan. Okay. So we've got the Sports Dome and naming and donations, maybe. And then
Veterans.
Senior Center.
Right, well, we had one on fees, right, user fees.
That has,
Done.
yep,
Okay.
and veterans, if you consider that.
And what
Veteran.
about the countryside?
Countryside.
We don't have that yet, that's coming up. We'll have. If we- What? Oh, we do have a member on the new, the new.
Yeah, that's a new old.
It's an old and new.
It's an old and new.
Right, that's the new warming house.
Louise is
or
on the
whatever.
countryside group too. Keep her abreast of these things.
Thank you, Louise.
And I'd like to start a
Want
work
to?
group to study work groups.
Okay.
Just kidding.
You want to do
There
that?
we go. That's what we
He's
need.
going to head that up.
Somebody to organize us getting organized.
So is the first one going to be a work group, the strategic planning? Is that,
No, that's a full work board. Full park board, sorry.
Well, can I make a comment in here, because I do this on a regular basis? That's going to be a lot of working groups, to be honest,
Yes.
over anywhere from a year to 3 years, probably. So, I mean, let's be clear that to do a strategic plan and do a good job is a heck of a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of data collection. We're going to split it up. We're not going to do it as one massive board. So, I mean, there's a lot underneath that number one initiative there. That's a lot of work.
yeah, I think that alone would be a board task, so. Okay, so I am sorry to interrupt on this type of thing, but when we just passed the last one, I was thinking, oh.
So there's a motion and a second on the table to approve the second initiative, Edina Senior Center. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Third item is the cost recovery goals for enterprise facilities. There was a suggestion to add and criteria for classification. Is there a motion on this item?
So moved.
Further discussion?
Yeah, actually. This is, again, to be done right, a lot of work. okay? If you start stacking up, as a volunteer board, you start stacking up what we're putting forward as initiatives for 2013, that's a lot of work. Okay. Now I know this probably needs to be done, but I'm beginning to look at everything we're putting together here. These are some big projects, and my question is this a 2013 project? Is this a 2014 project? As we start thinking through on all of this.
Or maybe we push out the completion date on it. Mm-hmm. In other words, leave it on here, but with a more extended completion date.
Yeah, I think we do need to think about prioritization a little bit, because we all have jobs, we all have lives, and I like the Parks Board, and I like Edina Parks, but I want to keep my life.
Is there a preferred completion date?
It strikes me as I think it's a very important study. I don't see the economy getting better for anybody quickly, and it's going to hit Edina as it's hit other cities, where the city council is going to have to come to grips with, can we afford to do all this stuff that doesn't pay their own way. So maybe what's needed initially is we all give it some thought and give Ann and or John what we think should be the elements of the study, and then we put that in writing and we talk about it in 3 months or 4 months, and we figure out at that time, and maybe talk to the city manager, what you're thinking. Is this something that needs to be done in the next 12 months, or can it go out 18 or 24?
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe 18 months to take it to June. I guess that'd be June 2014.
Would you like to amend the motion to... Right now, there's a motion on the table to approve the initiative. Would you like to amend the completion date?
Yeah, sure. So moved.
Okay, Catherine moves to amend the motion to change the completion date to June 2014. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. On the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Now on the motion for this initiative, to approve this initiative, is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. It wasn't too painful, Catherine. All right. The fourth initiative is renovate Garden Park baseball field.
Move to approve.
All right.
Sorry. That's fine. Okay.
Joseph seconds. David moved the initiative. Discussion?
Question, please, Kath. Didn't you say there's is it an American Legion national tournament coming to Edina for baseball?
American Legion state tournament.
Oh, state tournament.
Yes.
So there'd be 25, 35 teams coming, or more probably.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many, if it's 16, 24, something like that. Teams.
And does Garden Park need to be done by next summer or whenever the tournaments are?
I think that was the goal, was to have it done by next summer. In order to do that, I think you'd have to start working on it this fall. Is that correct, Ann?
That is correct. That initially was the goal. I think that baseball would really like to have Countryside and Garden Park done. And realistically, I'm not sure that either will be finished, but we have had those discussions with baseball, and they are making arrangements with other communities to be able to host what we're not able to host in Edina.
Yeah, and that's when Eden Prairie hosted a couple years ago. Braemar was actually a backup facility when Eden Prairie was the host. So it's not necessary. It would be great if it could happen.
What you're saying is for the park staff, it's a suggestion to do the scheduling so the fields are available. And,
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal.
yeah, thank you.
And Countryside actually, and those fields wouldn't be the appropriate size because it's 90-foot fields that they would need for that. And the fields at Countryside are smaller.
Are there any other questions or discussion on the motion to approve this initiative? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next initiative is the barrier-free replacement playground equipment at Wooddale Park.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
And is this strictly one-for-one replacement of the tot lot area as opposed to any other improvements or changes to the park or the constructs of the park?
Yes, that is correct. We're looking at just the playground component, and we're looking at putting it in the same footprint that it's in right now.
Okay, thank you.
What part of it was it you said that was going to be fundraising efforts? If we've got a $300,000 budget.
We're expecting it to cost around $300,000, and we're expecting the majority, if not all of it, to be fundraised.
From the neighborhood?
Correct.
Well,
So I'd like to try to get some kind of clarity here, because I know that there are many playgrounds that are quite old, and that there's a replacement schedule for those. So first, my first question is, where does this fit on the schedule? Is this where it would normally be replaced, or is this moving ahead of other?
It's moving ahead. It's about 8 years ahead of the normal replacement schedule, which is why we're asking for the fundraising campaign.
So would this be then similar to a donation where without the similar to what we did with Hornet's Nest, unless they raised a certain amount of funds, then the city would not go on, would not replace this ahead of time?
Yes, absolutely, that's correct. And we haven't had the recommendation from Park Board or from City Council to say they need to raise 100% or they need to raise 90%. We haven't had those discussions yet, and that's why I'm hoping to get some involvement from the Park Board to help with that. But yes, we are definitely, at this point, hoping for a 100% contribution in fundraising.
So kind of a related question. In the context of providing a barrier-free playground, has there been any discussion about which park might be best suited to do that? I understand Wooddale Park came forward because of some neighbors, but looking kind of at the broader concept, across the city, might there be another park that has older playground equipment that needs replacing, and because of how the park is laid out, might actually be a better space?
You definitely raise a very good point, and those are some discussions that we've had both with the neighbors and as staff. At this point, because of the proximity to the home of the person that is spearheading this campaign, Wooddale Park is the primary focus, but we certainly did discuss other parks in Edina, and it might be something that, with the involvement from the Park Board, we might want to do at other park locations as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about proximity to the parking and level, maybe a more level area. So there might be some other considerations that other spaces might work well for.
Do we currently have any barrier-free playground play spots? Is this a new addition, essentially?
Yes, this would be a new addition to our playgrounds in Edina. We don't have one that is completely barrier-free. And actually, there aren't many in the metro, but they are starting to pop up in neighboring communities.
Do barrier-free parks attract a broader group of people? Will it bring in people from outside the city, and might there be parking issues as a result?
You know, that's a really great question as well, and those are certainly some discussions that we've had. We would not at Wooddale want to make anything close to the size of Miller Park. I think that we would see people coming in from outside of Edina, but we definitely want to keep the neighborhood park feel, and we don't want to overrun the parking. We don't want to overrun the neighborhood. So we're definitely going to keep it at a scale that is very reasonable for that park. The other thing that we're seeing in playground design is some really neat and significant improvements in barrier-free play, so that the barrier-free equipment is much more exciting and entertaining for all kids, able-bodied kids as well. So we feel that it's a really good direction for us to go. And yes, to answer your question, we're really hoping to keep the size and the scope of the project in check with the size of the park.
So, Ann, I'm still trying to figure out how this board functions, and so this is coming at us before we approve our capital improvement plan. This is the first time I'm hearing about this project, and I'm with Member Peterson. I think it sounds like this wonderful project. I'd love to just say, oh, I'll embrace it. When I pass this as a part of the work plan, does that mean it is part of the capital improvement budget?
It is. We did put a dollar amount in the capital improvement budget that you are going to be looking at, and City Council will have an opportunity to approve later in the year. They might approve funding for the project. They might not approve funding for the project. Again, we haven't determined if it's going to be a 100% fundraising effort or an 80% fundraising effort, but you mentioned being reactionary. At times as staff, we also feel that we're being very reactionary, but I try to look at that in a positive mode. We listen to what the residents are asking for, and we hope to be able to act and respond in a timely manner. In this case, where we have someone that might be, looking at making a $200,000 or $300,000 donation to improve a park 8 to 10 years ahead of time, I think that yes, it might be viewed as reactionary, but we look at it as we're trying to be proactive to what the residents are requesting.
We just want to be careful when we're wording about our initiatives. We're not approving the specific project per se. We're just getting it on our calendar.
Yes, absolutely. I would second that as well. And I don't think that I completely answered your question, Ellen. Yes, you're certainly not also approving a dollar amount. In this case, we put a $300,000 budget just to give you an idea of what we think this entire project might cost. But it's not even what we have in our CIP for that amount. I believe we put $100,000 in, but we're thinking that the whole project might cost $300,000.
I want to speak in favor of putting this on simply for the fact I think with the improvement in barrier free that you're talking about, this is going to become an ADA issue. You're going to either do it or get sued. To be honest, it's going to become an access issue. And given what I understand and have been seen in the past, once things become available, access becomes an issue. We're gonna have to do it one way or the other. Might as well be in front of it.
Would anyone like to make a motion on this initiative?
Just a quick comment first, and then I'm happy to make the motion. I think a lot of us are curious what barrier-free playground equipment looks like, and if that can be, a couple of pages can be emailed. If not, maybe you could photocopy them and mail them in the next park board packet for next month. Would like to see what kind of equipment you're talking about.
Certainly, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd move approval of putting the barrier-free.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, further discussion?
I was just going to add, whatever process we normally do as part of a redesign of a playground, I would like to make sure that that is part of this. So whatever I would add, the Park Board would be asked to review the public process of this redesign. Just as in Countryside Park, we are having the neighbors all be part of a redesign. I just don't want to develop a process that one neighbor has come forward with a proposal that's too hard to resist or whatever, and that we just approve it. I just want to make sure that this is something that's vetted with the process that we always use.
Yes, absolutely, and we will be involving many more neighbors, and we will be putting together a neighborhood committee, and I will be asking for Park Board participation as well.
Great, thanks.
Good point.
Ellen,
Thank you.
on the Lake Edina pathway, it says host a public hearing. Would you be more comfortable saying and host a public hearing for this item or no?
I don't know what what do we normally do for playgrounds?
They generally put notice out to like 500 feet or 1,000 feet, right?
I think maybe just verbiage in there saying following the standard public process.
Is it? I just want to be consistent with the other initiatives. So, host a public hearing, or do we want to say something else? Was there a motion to amend the Park Board duties language?
I'm not sure that hosting a public hearing is what we always do. So, for example, I don't know, with Highlands, when there was discussion, and I wasn't here that night, but there was a lot of comment. We got a lot of comment back on it. So I'm not sure it's always hosting a public hearing. I guess I'm not sure what the normal process is, but I think we should follow the normal process.
Right. So I would make a motion that we follow standard public process.
Okay, so you're amending the motion.
No.
There's already a motion on the table to approve the barrier-free.
Oh, okay. So I amend the motion to just include the verbiage. Park Board will be asked to review and comment on design and hold standard public what do you call it?
Public notice.
Notice.
Second.
Any
Yeah,
further
ma'am.
discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, amendment passes. Is there further discussion on this initiative? All right, all those in favor in the motion to pass this initiative, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. All right, the next initiative is Lake Edina pathway.
I make a motion to add Lake Edina Pathway as one of the 2013 new initiatives.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. We have the Countryside Park Master Plan.
I make a motion to include Countryside Park Master Plan as one of the 2013 new initiatives.
All right, further discussion?
I would like the staff to give some thought, since this will be a redo of an existing park with all new playground equipment. What percentage of new playground equipment should be barrier-free? And think about it and tell us at a future meeting.
Yeah, I've been working with the neighborhood group on this playground, and I think you'll be very happy to hear that that has been one of their very strong initiatives. And in fact, this is going to be our first playground that we're going to be putting in a completely poured-in-place safety surface so that it'll be 100% accessible.
Is there further discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. All right, on to ongoing responsibilities. We identified that the ongoing responsibilities are capital improvement plan, fees and charges, the operating budget, bylaws, election of officers, and the work plan.
I move to approve the ongoing responsibilities.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We had talked about creating a new category, ongoing initiatives, and this would include donations policy, naming of parks and facilities policy, user fee policy, and the Edina Veterans Memorial. And sports dome.
And
Yes.
sports dome.
So there are 5.
Move to approve the ongoing initiatives.
Second.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. I'm going to go through these one by one. The cooperative agreement with the school district for 2013-14. Under other work plan and ideas.
Could you explain that a little bit?
And do you know about this item? It was brought forward by staff.
We have 2 parks at Creek Valley and Cornelia School Park where the property lines are unusual. We have school use on city property, and we have city use of ball fields on school property. And it's historically been a handshake agreement, and we would like to firm up these relationships in just the form of a more formal agreement, just so we know going forward what we can and cannot do, and possibly discuss field improvements and those sorts of things.
These are the fields that are falling down the bank.
Yes.
Has Kathy Sella any input into this item?
We haven't had any formal discussions at this point, but we'll certainly involve her.
Does the city or the park system carry insurance if a student is injured?
Both do, yes.
And I'm sure the school system does.
Yes.
Thank you.
Does anyone have a motion for this item?
Move to approve.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor? Say aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Next item is the Master Parks Plan for 2014.
Oh, that's different.
Now I'm kind of confused about the plan. I think we're all in agreement, and we just passed that strategic planning would be part of the 2013 new initiatives on our work plan. But I think it's this Master Parks Plan, which I think Anne correctly said could be a matter of semantics, but I want to make sure that we're not trying to create what just got passed around. So I'm not in favor of this, and this is the kind of planning that I think is just overwhelming.
The rationale behind this is City Council expressed interest in a Master Parks Plan.
Well, then, perhaps we should wait until the city council gives us an official direction that that's what they want us to do.
Well, I just have a separate opinion on that, and it's mostly because I'm looking at something that today's meeting shows how absolutely reactionary we can be. Likewise, in the past year, I've seen many things that we've had to react to, and if we were able to say, okay, where are our playgrounds that need to be refurbished? We have a schedule similar to our road schedule of replacement of roads, so we can tell neighborhoods, in 15 years you're going to get a new swing set. And this is the type of strategic planning, but it goes into a master parks plan. It's a little bit more detailed. So I think that this is something that Edina could use.
I got the impression that what Ellen passed around was different than what the master parks plan is that we're being asked to approve.
I think it really comes down to what you make it. So,
I think what we're talking about, if we put a strategic plan together that's going to set forth goals, visions, what it is that we think Edina should have in terms of amenities, et cetera, going forward over the next decade, the master parks plan then follows as the implementation. How is it we're going to achieve these goals specifically? What parks, what are we going to do with the parks we have? What new ones need to be? And it begins to go into more detail. The only challenge with that is means we have to have the first one done well before we do the second one. So, you can put it on 2014 or wherever you like, but it's going to be contingent upon getting the first one done before you do the second one.
is there a motion on this item? Okay. Let's move on to the new items that were suggested that are not on this. Community gardens. Would you like to make a motion?
It's my understanding that when we get emails from the city council, they'd like somebody else to solve the problem or think about the problem.
Was that from council or were those from residents?
It's from
I
residents.
think they were to the city council and they were forwarded to us, as I remember reading
anytime you send in an email to the city, though, and they ask it to go to, it's going to get passed along.
I know, but it seems to me it would behoove us to look at it, and the easy way is at the YMCA property across from York as a start. And John's already got some of that information all collected already. So I think we should put it on the agenda when he gets healed and gets back, and he can tell us what's going on.
Do you want to?
I'd second that.
Is that a formal motion?
Oh, I so move.
Okay.
Okay, but what do we, hold on here.
Hang on. We need a second.
We've had discussions in the past.
Well, he just made a motion, so is there a second to his motion? I did. Okay. Sorry.
Was it maybe 2 years ago that we had the discussion of community gardens, and the biggest challenge that we have is where to put them. Where and the YMCA was undergoing some renovations. The promenade was going in, and I don't recall all the discussion, but there is some potential land use around the YMCA that could potentially be used for a community garden. And I think there's a lot of people that would like it, and if that's a potential area that we could use, I think it's worthwhile exploring, because we're now 2 years removed from that. And so if it's a possibility, I'd like to see it explored like Dan.
Okay, but what are we proposing? Are we proposing a work group? Are we proposing that, gee, it sounds like a good idea?
Well, maybe just get some staff, just having it on the ongoing responsibilities, get maybe some staff updates, what's going on with that land. If it's a possibility that there is some agreement that we could enter into, just so we could have a discussion whether or not it would be feasible to put it in a community garden. I mean, if, like Dan said, if we are getting emails from residents,
My suggestion is John is on 30-day leave, medical leave, so 60-day, in our November meeting, he should be back on duty, and if you just put on the agenda, he can tell us.
Well, this is just for the 2013, which actually doesn't start until February, I believe.
Fine. In February, he can tell us what's going on at the Y.
Just if we put it on as an ongoing responsibility, doesn't necessarily mean we have to do it either, does it?
That's actually what I'm trying to work
You know,
out.
and
Do we
we
want
just-
to put it as one of the initiatives, or we're saying we're actually going to do something about it, or do we just want to put it on, add it into the ongoing responsibilities or the ongoing parks or whatever, something that says, look, we want to look at this.
Exactly.
Versus putting a work group together and actually looking to undertake it.
Would people be comfortable with it under other work plan ideas considered for current year or future years?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that. That sounds perfect. Yep.
Okay. I make a motion to amend the motion to include this item under other work plan ideas.
I second.
And I
All right.
accept it as a friendly motion so we can vote once.
Okay, great. Is there further discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor of adding the community gardens, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, the other item was the green energy. Ellen, did you have a motion and where you would like it to go?
Well, in the meantime, I've been thinking about what Louise has said about energy and environment. So my motion would be that I would put, I would suggest that we put it under other work plan ideas considered for current year or future year, and suggest that I also, that we somehow ask energy and environment if they would be willing to chair a work group to pursue that.
Okay, and where would you like to place that?
Under other work plan ideas.
Okay, so you're making a motion to add a working group with the Edina Energy and Environment Commission to talk about green energy in the parks.
Green energy assessment and implementation.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. All right, the one item left is the Master Parks Plan. Please make a motion if you'd like to act on it.
I think we need further background what the city council is thinking about.
All right. Okay, if there's no one wants to act on it, I'm going to end this item. I believe we covered everything. Is anything I'm missing? Great. Well, that was relatively painless. It's kind of a big deal to pull one of those together. So thank you for great questions and adding some great items. I'm going to turn it to welcoming our new students. It's John O'Leary, and if you just want to say a little bit about yourself, we'll go through and say our names. So,
okay.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's John O'Leary. I'm a senior at Edina High School this year. Do you guys want to know like what outside activities I do?
Sure.
Is that okay? So I row crew fall, winter, and summer, and then during the spring I play ultimate frisbee. I'm captain of the high school team this year. I'm involved with mock trial, the 212 leadership program, which is basically just to kind of bring the whole school together to lead the school to a place instead of just having like the student council where it's just kind of a select group of kids and yeah. And then Oh, I'm a commitment class church leader at CPC as well. So.
Great. Well, welcome. And we will get you participating much more in our next couple meetings. So do you want to start with Catherine and go down the line, say your name and maybe something interesting about yourself? Or why you sat on the park board? Or
I'm Catherine Peterson. I'm on the park board. I have 2 kids. They're both in college now, but they were very active in a lot of activities in Edina, and I became active along with them. So
I'm Ellen Jones, and I have 3 kids, and I used to hang out in the park so much with them in many different parks. And I just felt that as they got older, I should try to give back to the city and make the parks as good as they can be. And the more I hang out in the parks, the more I realize we have some beautiful places here. So.
I'm Dan Giske, father of Tyler Giske, who graduated last year. He's a senior last year. Served on a board like you two are. So welcome. I think you'll enjoy it. We'll try to keep you involved, and don't be afraid to be involved. He was on the health committee last year, and he enjoyed it. So they didn't meet quite as often as we do. So he only had maybe 3 or 4 meetings the entire time. But if you have some ideas, mention them and get into the discussion. So have fun.
David Deeds, 3 boys running around, or one about to graduate. I live here. I figured I've got some skill sets and might as well contribute.
I'm Kia Steele. I'm a EHS graduate as well, and my parents signed me up for every youth athletic sport available because I didn't think they wanted me in the house. But my biggest accomplishment was I coached Edina, EGAA 5th grade volleyball, and we won the championship on prom day, so that was pretty cool.
I'm Louise Segreto, and I tried crew when I was at Cornell University in New York, and 5 o'clock in the morning we had to be down at the lake, and I got splashed a few times, and it was over.
Hi, John. I'm Joseph Hulbert. I have 3 kids in Edina, grades 3, 5, and 7, and I think you'll find all these meetings aren't maybe as dry as this one is, and I noticed you were tardy, and your punishment is you've got to sit through a city council meeting, I think. I'm just kidding.
Hi, my name is Sue Jacobson. I have 2 kids, one who's a senior at Edina. Peter Jacobson, never know who knows. I joined the park board because I have a park right behind my house, so that's probably the biggest reason. So welcome.
Hi, John. I'm Dan Peterson. What is alternative frisbee, and how does it differ from golf or ultimate? And how does it differ from, I think they call it golf frisbee, where you throw it into a chain link deal?
So ultimate frisbee it's like a team sport. So you've got 7 players on each side, and if you can kind of think of it kind of like football, except without the tackling and the pads, and yeah, so you have like 3 quarterbacks and 4 receivers, and then the other team's playing defense. So it's kind of the same thing, but the play never ends until somebody scores a touchdown. So.
Hi, I'm Janet Canton. I'm the office coordinator here for the Parks Department, and I take the minutes.
Hi, John. I'm Ann Catry. I'm the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director. I've been in my current position for only about 10 months, but I've worked for the city in the Parks Department for 20 years. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. All right. So moving on to correspondence and petitions.
We have one letter in your packet that you should have in front of you tonight. That's it.
All right. Chair and board member comments. Ellen, would you like to talk about the city council meeting?
Yeah, the city at the, I don't know if it was their last meeting, but at a recent city council meeting, they decided, they actually did not hear the donations or naming policy. They basically said that it was something that was too complicated to take into consideration during a meeting, and they felt that they would want to discuss it at a work session. So we're going to have a special work session, I think, in December to discuss naming and donations.
By we, you mean the subcommittee?
I think it's just the subcommittee.
Just checking.
Okay, so that would be, you'd be recommending that it just be the subcommittee. Okay. This is one of those, no one likes talking policy, I can tell, but so I will take that back to Scott Neal and make sure that that work session is just the naming and donations working group, and so that's where that stood. They never actually even saw a presentation on it. So.
And I presented afterwards on the user fees policy recommendations, and the city council pretty much accepted the recommendations with the interest of collecting the data, and then let's take a look at it. You know, it might be a one-time deal. They did, I think they removed something about the Braemar City of Lakes Figure Skating Club being considered, I think, the residency requirement, or, but otherwise, that staff will be working on that.
Just actually more of a question. Where do we stand on the Sports Dome location info?
I was actually going to mention that under staff comments. We have been working with the Creek Valley Church on discussions on their site, and I think at this point I have enough information to be able to report back to the group. So hopefully either later this week or the very beginning of next week I'll be scheduling a meeting. Thank you.
Any other park board comments?
Yeah, I actually have just one quick comment in regards to this letter that came in about putting Frisbee golf baskets in the trees. I would just ask that the city touch base with their forester, Tom Horwath, to ask them his opinion. I've gone to the Roslyn Park Frisbee golf, and it's a lot of fun, but it does scar up those old oak trees in there quite a bit, and I don't know what that's doing to the health of those trees, and those are old trees in there. So just a comment.
Thank you for the comment, and this raises another point that we would like to have Park Board consider. We do get requests like this on a very regular, daily basis, and John and I were talking about wanting the Park Board to come up with a very specific policy and procedure on how you would like us to address these concerns. We would like there to be even a policy on our website. So if you have a request of something that you would like to see in the park, this is the paperwork that you fill out. This is a petition that you need to have signed. This is the process that you will go through with the Park Board. So that's something that we would like you all to consider as well.
And we can add that, though, at the meeting with City Council, if you wanted to. I mean, I was just joking. But I hear what you're saying, and if that's what we're supposed to be doing is creating policies. So
It's
that
not
should
2013 yet.
Yeah.
All right, any other Park Board comments? All right, Anne, do you have any other items?
I did. You'll find in front of you tonight a resolution that we're going to be passing on to the City Council next week as part of our Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant. We need to have our city council pass this resolution essentially stating that we have the ability, the staff and the funding to be able to maintain the field that we're requesting the funds for. So you'll see the information in front of you regarding the plan that is being proposed for Garden Park. I mentioned the sports dome. The last thing that I wanted to mention was the Hornet's Nest, and the project is going along very smoothly, and we're still on track for a very early December opening date.
Great.
Could you just give us a quick update on the golf dome?
Yes, we are. We're working with RJM as a construction manager, and we're in the process of determining what we need in a new golf dome, and they're putting together some figures for us. And at that point, once we have a plan, a building plan, and some figures in place, then we'll be going back to the insurance company to work on negotiating those fees. And at this point, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to have the golf dome open for this golf season. No, not at all, unfortunately. We were hoping to shoot for January, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case.
Do they have any date set to try to begin reconstruction of it at all?
At this point, the opening date is anticipated for October of 2013.
Any other staff comments?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. We are adjourned.